Welcome back to another Hats Tutors video. Today I'm going to be walking you through this IB integrals problem. So let's get started. Find the equation of the function f of x given that it passes through the point -1, 2 and is such that f prime of x is equal to ax plus b over x squared, where f of 1 is 4 and f prime of 1 is 0. So in this question we're given that f prime of x, I'll write this in black to make it a bit easier. We're given that, actually let's do blue. So we're given that f prime of x is equal to ax plus b over x squared, where f of 1 is equal to 4 and f prime of 1 is equal to 0. And what we're asked to do is find the equation of f of x. So here we have two unknowns in this equation, but we can get our two equations to solve for these two unknowns. So first let's start off with f prime of 1 is equal to 0, since we already have f prime here. So if f prime of 1 is equal to 0, then 0 is equal to a times 1 plus b over 1 squared. And we get a plus b equals 0. So that is our first equation. Equation 1 right there. Now how are we going to get our second equation? Well, we're given that f of 1 is equal to 4, but we don't have f of x. So here's what we'll do. To get f of x, we can take the integral of this equation right there, and then we'll get f of x, since this is f, the derivative of x. So let's start off. Over here, f of x is equal to the integral of ax plus b over x squared with respect to x. And it's good to write this properly, just to show that you understand what you're doing. So let's continue. This is a constant, so we can separate this into two integrals, but it's pretty intuitive. We don't have to write it down. So to get the integral of ax, it's equal to a over 2x squared, and then the integral of this is equal to 1 over -1, or just -1, bx to the -1, plus a constant. Don't forget this constant, because it's going to be important for the rest of the question, where we have to find the equation of f of x with the constant using this point right there. So let's continue. We get 1 over 2 ax squared minus b over x plus c is equal to f of x. And we're not done finding our second equation yet, because now we just introduced a new value right here, the constant c. But what we can do is we can find the full equation of f of x by substituting in this point, where f of -1 is equal to 2. That's another piece of information we have written in a different way, since f of x passes through this point. So we get 2 is equal to 1 over 2a times -1 squared minus b divided by -1 plus c. We get 2 is equal to 1 over 2a plus b plus c. So this is our second equation, and actually looks like we're going to need 3 equations to solve this problem, because we also have to find c. But we have this piece of information right here where f of 1 is equal to 4, so we can plug that into our equation as well. So we have f of 1 is equal to 4, therefore, going back to our equation for f of x, we have 4 is equal to 1 over 2a times 1 squared minus b over 1 plus c. But 4 is equal to 1 over 2a minus b plus c. And if you look at these, let me just write this down as equation 3. Now if you look at equation 2 and 3, you'll notice that both of these equations have 1 over 2a terms and a positive c term. And this makes it easy for us to eliminate these equations. And I'm going to have to move to a new page here as I'm running out of room. So let's see. Alright, so let's keep going. we're going to write equation 3 and we're going to write equation 2 here so we can eliminate these two equations. We have 2 is equal to 1 over 2a, and this is equation 2, plus b plus c. And taking these two equations, if you see, we can subtract 3 minus 2, and we can eliminate the a and c terms to solve for b. So subtracting 3 with 2, we get 2 is equal to 0, and negative b minus b is equal to minus 2b, and c minus c is equal to 0. So we get 2 is equal to negative 2b, b is equal to negative 1. So there is our first constant solved. Now with this solved, it's a lot easier to solve the other two. We can just plug this value for b into our equation 1 to find a. So from our equation 1, we have given that b is equal to negative 1, then that means a plus negative 1 equals 0, so a must equal 1. And that is our second constant solved. And now we can just substitute these values into either one of these two equations to find the value of c. So I'm just going to use equation 3 because it's easier to see right here. We get 4, I'll use a different color. We get 4 is equal to 1 over 2 times a, which is 1, minus b, which is negative 1, plus c. And solving this, we get 4 is equal to 1 over 2 plus 1 plus c. And then we can do 3 minus 1 over 2 is equal to c. And we get c is equal to 2.5, or is equal to 5 over 2. And that is our final constant solved. So knowing this, we can now write the final equation of f of x. Let's do it in green. Given that c is equal to 5 over 2, b is equal to negative 1, and a is equal to 1, we get f of x is equal to, going back to our original f of x, let's see, where is it? F of x is equal to this equation right here, so we'll just move it down. F of x is equal to 1 over 2 ax squared minus b over x plus c. Now we just substitute our values of a, b, and c. It's equal to 1 over 2, remember a is equal to 1 over here. So 1 over 2 times 1 x squared minus b is equal to negative 1 over x, and then plus c, which is 5 over 2. So we get our final equation for f of x is equal to 1 over 2x squared plus 1 over x plus 5 over 2. And that is our final equation for f of x. So going back to this equation, or to this original question, it's really not too difficult, because you're given that you have one equation with two unknowns, and you're given enough information to find other equations that will help you solve for these two unknowns, and for also the constant in f of x. Don't forget that constant. It's a key point you need to solve this equation, because if you don't have the constant, you won't get the right f prime, or you won't get the right f of x equation. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.